Generation Z comprises of those born between 97 and 2013. And millennials are those born between 1981 and 1996. I'm laughing as I read that because I'm sitting here thinking about the fact that someone born in 2000 is 24 now, and I'm realizing I'm old and washed. Holy smokes. 24 years. Anyway, I remember Y2K like it was yesterday, and now to think that someone born in 2000 is 24, I am washed. What's up, people? Welcome to this episode of the By the Hood podcast, or webcast, because I don't know how you're consuming this content. I'm your host as always. My name is Jimmy, and as we start off every show with gratitude, salute everybody that supports everything we got going on at By the Hood. Special shout out to all the students from By the Hood University, the youth from the By the Hood Ownership Camp, and listen, all of our members from MDC Strategy, which is our private group, which sponsors this show, By the Hood. For those that don't know, you can go to mdcstrategy.com for more information. With that being said, let's get right into it. My brother Corey isn't here today. He's handling some business down in Texas, but I'm going to make sure I drop this quick pod. I'm trying to make the pods a little bit faster. I want to be more efficient with our communication, in terms of our media, because I know people don't like them like long hour, 2-hour podcasts. Our Friday live tends to go about an hour, but we're having fun with our folks on Friday. So if you want to check out our live show, pull up Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern. We do a live show every Friday and a Bitcoin giveaway. We give away Bitcoin every Friday. Speaking of Bitcoin, Mondays is Stack Sats or Die Trying. That's our Bitcoin only show where I come on and pontificate about my my love affair with Bitcoin. All right, with that being said, today's episode, and shout out to the folks that give me feedback on all these episodes. I definitely appreciate it. I read all the comments. I'm the guy that's responding to the comments, you know what I'm saying? So when you see me saluting you or appreciating you, if you're hating on me, like I hit like on that too. I love it all. And I shout out to everybody on Twitter that gives me feedback as well. And I know one of the things I can't remember who said it, but it was like, man, the Wednesday show is like the doom and gloom show now. And it's not that it's the doom and gloom show. We want to make sure that we're representing what's happening in the world and giving our perspective from a real standpoint, right? It's not about, and I consistently say that it's not about coming on to find like these tricks or these lottery ticket things. It's about creating real dialogue and real conversations about how people are living. How can we do what it takes to survive? Because to us, the idea of building wealth in personal finance isn't about, being Sam Rothstein, too much flossing and all that. It's about survival, protecting your family, and just, having assets to survive, man. You got to have assets to survive in 2024. The have and have nots, that gap is widening. You're never going to close it just with personal finance. So we're not here to tell that lie either. But what we want to do is make sure our folks are prepared and protected. And got another article for you. And by the way, if you're listening to the audio, salute to you, because our audio listeners is where majority of our listeners come from. So I want to give you guys a salute. And also, I will put the link for this article in the show notes as well as the description in case you want to check out the article. But as always, I'll read a little bit of the article to give some context from Market Watch. The headline of this article says, "How much will you need to retire? America's magic number surges to $1.46 million." Now, if some of you guys are nearing retirement, we have some folks that listen, in the 50s in terms of age bracket. How much money do you have? Are you close to 1.46 million? That's what they believe you will need to retire. That's the magic number right now. So I'll read a little bit of this article. And it's what polls and research has said. American adults believe they will need 1.46 million to retire comfortably, which is a 15% increase from last year and a massive 54% jump from what Americans said in 2020 that they'd expect to need. We're in 2024, so 50% in 4 years that shows you how inflation is cooking folks right now. And I want to make sure I give a shout out to Jessica Hall, who wrote this article for Market Watch. Says the ballooning of that retirement nest egg expectation has outpaced inflation, currently running between 2 and 3%. According to Northwestern Mutual's 2024 Planning in Progress study. What I know is inflation is not running at 2 to 3%, and at least in my city. Inflation, the way they play with the inflation numbers, that's a whole other conversation into itself. But inflation is cooking more than that. But this increase is crazy, right? So over a 5-year span, this magic number that people believe they need went from 951,000, which was 2020, to over $1 million now. What I say, we have $1.46 million. Both Generation Z and millennials expect to need more than 1.6 million to retire comfortably. High net worth individuals, people with more than $1 million in investable assets, said they'll need nearly 4 million to retire. Generation Z comprises of those born between 97 and 2013. And millennials are those born between 1981 and 1996. I'm laughing as I read that because I'm sitting here thinking about the fact that someone born in 2000 is 24 now, and I'm realizing I'm old and washed. Holy smokes. 24 years. Anyway, I remember Y2K like it was yesterday, and now to think that someone born in 2000 is 24, I am washed. Anyway, even as the total nest egg, Americans believe they'll need may be rising. The actual amount U.S. adults have saved for retirement is dropping. So think about this. People are thinking they'll need more, but our savings rates are going down. That's problematic. The average sum that U.S. adults have saved for retirement dropped to $88,400 in 2024 from $89,300 in 2023, and down more than $10,000 from a 5-year peak of $98,800 in 2021. Nasty work. In 2023, the soaring cost of eggs in the grocery store symbolized inflation in America. In 2024, it's nest eggs. So this is from Aditi Javeri Jokal, who's the Chief Strategy Officer and President of Retail Investments and Head of Institutional Investments at Northwestern Mutual. So he said, people's magic number to retire comfortably has exploded to an all-time high, and the gap between their goals and progress has never been wider. So just to summarize, as people believe they will need more money to retire comfortably, they're actually saving less while saying the opposite. There are a number of reasons we could point to for that. I mean, things just cost more. It is what it is, but that will be a problem. What are we going to do as a society and country when folks aren't able to retire? Last week's episode talked a little bit about Social Security, but this is a whole other problem. And again, I'm not trying to make Wednesday the doom and gloom episode, but this is what the data says. This is what we're facing. These are the conversations we have to have, and we need people to, as leaders in the community, whether that's through policy or just people leading, to figure these things out, because it's looking nasty out here, man. The average age at which Americans started saving for retirement was 31. That's a problem. The study found, but for Gen Z, it's 22, nearly a decade earlier. It's also a full 15 years earlier than baby boomers and older generations who say they started when they were 37. Millennials and Gen X members began saving for retirement at 27 and 31, respectively. First question, before I even finish reading this, that I want to leave you guys with during the course of this episode. How old were you when you started saving for retirement? Be honest, right? You ain't lying to nobody but yourself and me if you give me an answer, right? How old were you when retirement first became a thought in your mind and you started to save for retirement? Hopefully none of you guys say I haven't started yet, because if you're watching this video, you probably should have started. But let me know. Let me know in the comments. Give me some feedback on that, right? I would love to hear from our audience. What age were you when you started to think about retirement? So baby boomers are those born between 1946 and 64, Gen X between 65 and 80. And as far as their work expectations, Gen Z aims to retire at 60, while boomers expect to work until they're 72. The average age most people expect to work is 65, according to Northwest Mutual study. And that study was done on 4,588 U.S. adults age 18 and older. Nice little sample size. I mean, it's still a sample size, but, I've seen people do studies with we talk to 100, like they on a Family Feud and whatnot. So they got close to five bands. So good work. Good numbers. So these numbers tell a fascinating story about the profound shift in financial planning that has taken shape in America. Young people today recognize the value of retirement, planning, and building wealth early on in life, and are getting a significant head start over their parents and grandparents. At the same time, Gen Z is redefining retirement and signaling they plan to have long and fulfilling post-career lives. The good news is that they are investing earlier so they can save the money they need. Now, that's the good part about this article. I think a lot of that has to do with social media, people sharing information. As much as we talk crazy about social media, complain about it, there are some good aspects, right? So I have a nephew, love him dearly. He's 18 years of age. He's already started saving for retirement. He has access to a lot of information, and he has me as well. So sit down to explain things, help him set up a 401k, set up a stock portfolio outside of his 401k. So these kids are exposed to information and even ideas that a lot of times we weren't exposed to when we were younger, which is a good part. It still got all the negative parts of social they got to deal with. So it's kind of a balancing act. But this article is interesting for a lot of reasons, because for one, people are scared, right? They have this fear that they'll need all of this money, but they're not taking the necessary action. Now, a lot of times it's not their fault. Wages haven't kept up with inflation at all, right? Your labor has value, but are we demanding the right labor for our work hour? That's a whole other question that we can do a deep dive later on. One of these days, I'm going to go back through every episode and go back to everything that I said. We could talk about that later. And we're going to have an episode called All the Stuff We Should Talk About Later. That probably can make up a whole week's worth of material, because we always talk about, we're going to talk about that later. But no, seriously though, these are things that we have to worry about, man. Like there's only so much saving you can do when you don't have the money to save. So now you have to look. There's two things you can do. You can cut expenses or get more money. Some tough decisions will have to be made, man. Some tough decisions have to be made. But when I look at this and I look at a lot of other things that are happening within the world today, it's kind of a scary thing. But at the end of the day, the one thing I do know is the only person you can control is you. That's a fact. You can't control anyone else. So I always try to be solutions-based and think about what can I do, not only for myself and my family, but for those around me, whether that's sharing information, helping them find better jobs, helping them find other sources of income, helping them have hustles, whatever it may be. But again, we talk about assets as a way to survive. So if we recognize that that money is going to take a lot more, last week, if you watched last week's episode, if you haven't, go back and check it out. You recognize Social Security may not be the net that a lot of people think it will be. We got to be taking action now, right? We see what the numbers are. The cost of eggs. Inflation is not 3%. I don't care what CPI they use. We know inflation is not 3%. CPI doesn't even take into account, all things that we have to buy to survive. So that's FOH with that. We know what it costs. Like, we absolutely know what it costs to survive and live in the world in 2024. So we gotta figure some things out. Corey and I often talk about the idea of multi-generational households. Will that become a thing again? It might be, right? You got to figure out ways to, and shout out to, I can't think of your name, and I apologize for this, but I know you watched the last episode and you left a great comment and I responded to you. Your comment was about growing food, right? When we going to start growing food? And like I told you, I tried. I'm going to get back out there and try again. I'm going to heed your words. But whatever a green thumb is, I have the opposite of that. I got cooked. Mother Nature cooked me. I was terrible at growing food, but I'm going to figure that skill set out, because again, I'm thinking about the four. This is going to sound crazy. It's going to sound very bunkerish and, the folks that prepare for the future. But I have conversations with my friends. Shout out to my brother Jay, Pass, Tone, Spoon, Core. I had conversations with them about, I'm stacking bullets. Everybody know I stack my sats and all that. I'm like, I'm preparing for the craziest of the crazy, right? So I'm stacking assets to survive. But one of the things I started stacking is firearms, because I don't know where this world is going, and I ain't trying to really turn this into no video to make people start building bunkers and being a survivalist. And side note, shout out to my brother Pat, because he told me, he was like, if you think this conversation is bad, go on Facebook and look up some of the survivalist groups. You go in those groups, folks out here preparing. I don't know what they're preparing for, but they preparing for something crazy. I ain't that far gone, but I did take a look at it. But I ain't gonna lie to you either. I'm making sure that I can, protect my family and my community, right? So that's all part of it. And this is what we stack assets for. And this is what, Buy the Hood, again, means Black love. And we talk about buying our community. We talk about a lot more. We talk about wealth from a holistic standpoint and how important it is to have community, right? So that's what it's about. It's about Black love. And I think that these kind of conversations are needed. I don't know whether you're having them with your family or your friends, but me and my friends, we talk about like, yo, it's time to stack some bullets, stack some stuff that's not necessarily within the system, such as the stock market. Like my thing is Bitcoin and sats. And if you don't understand my love for Bitcoin, check out the Monday show. You'll see what I mean by that. It's not a plug for that, but just to say that, what's your strategy? Everybody has to have a strategy. So the thing I want to leave you with is everything's not all doom and gloom, because even though inflation is what it is, even though we'll need more now to survive, we also are living in 2024 where you can take this thing right here, a smartphone, and figure out a way to make some chicken. So we also are living in a time where you can create. I got an Uber the other day. I went to a meetup, right? This past month. I went to shout to everybody from the Bitcoin Joan. It's a Bitcoin meetup in Philly. I went to a meetup and I got in an Uber to go there. And the sister had an Uber and she had like a concession zone in the back. She had games you can play. She created a full business. I was like, damn, I left her a brilliant tip. I didn't even need or want any of the things that she had, but I thought her hustle was immaculate. You know what I mean? So we live in a world now where you can create side hustles. I don't think they should replace jobs, because a lot of times what you'll notice is people are doing them full time, but some people create businesses out of this stuff. So you could pick your phone up, whether that's arbitrage selling, creating content, or learning to do all kinds of things. I think the trades are going to come back in a major way. Talking to some of my folks that are plumbers and carpenters, they are getting to the bag. I talked to a plumber last week. Dude told me, Jim, I made $250,000 last year in my little raggedy truck. And I'm like, nice. Yeah. So I think the trades will be back in a major way. I'm also out of luck when it comes to that. I'm terrible with my hands, which is probably why, I killed plants trying to grow food, but it is what it is, man. I'm a work in progress. You know what I mean? I'm a nerd, so I can get behind a computer and do some work, but yeah, I'm terrible. Anyway, so shout out to those that have the skill set to use their hands, because I think the trades are going to come back in a major way. I've already seen it. So I just think we have to be prepared, be strategic, and be ready to make moves, and sometimes make uncomfortable moves. The idea of living in a multi-generational house will make a lot of people uncomfortable. But it is what it is, man. We trying to live out here, Anyway, man, the questions I have for you guys: how old were you when you started thinking about retirement, if at all? And do you think that 1.6, 1.46, do you think that's enough to retire? And also how is inflation? Do you think inflation is really 2 to 3% like they're reporting, or is it more where you're at? Those are the questions I got. What's inflation really like to you? How old were you when you thought about retiring? You know what I'm saying? And where you at with it? So I appreciate all the support. Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Buy the Hood Friday Live, Bitcoin giveaway. Pull up, join us there. Monday, stack sats or die trying. I would say follow us on social. We ain't really been that heavy on socials lately, not that much on IG, Twitter, and all that, because again, we're doing the work, living life, and just wanted to pull back a little bit too. Sometimes you got to unplug, man, because it gets crazy, man. Like, for lack of a better term, man, I can't sit there and watch niggatry win all day. So I had to pull back a little bit, but I'm still in all the various groups and group chats. So shout out to everybody, because I don't even look at you guys as followers, supporters. Y'all like family. I build true relationships with folks that come from the channel or the podcast. It's crazy how many people that I met in person and now have like full friendships with, man. But that's what it's all about, man. It's about sharing energy, sharing ideas, giving your POV, listening to other people's POV, because I learn from you guys. I really do learn from you guys. That comment last week, I was like, yeah, I really got it. It shook me like, yo, where you at with learning to grow your food, right? You know what I mean? So people have been giving me that information. That's what I need. I don't know it all, and I want to get better. And I believe in crowdsourcing, and I believe in surrounding yourself with people that can bring information and things to the table. Because again, I know what I know, and I know what I don't know. One of my strongest how can I say this? One of the best qualities I have is being self-aware and knowing what I don't know, but also not being afraid to ask for help with what I don't know. You know what I mean? So I've already reached out to folks that I know to grow food. Like, yo, I'm gonna need your help. I'm gonna need you to break this down for me. You know what I mean? So we out here bartering. I got someone that said they're gonna teach me how to grow some some vegetables in return for me teaching them how to do cold storage on Bitcoin. So we out here bartering. But that's what it's about. It's about community, and it's about learning from each other, man. So I definitely want you guys to know that I love and appreciate every one of you. I'll see you guys on Friday. As we always say, it's not about how much money you make, it's about how much you keep. Game elevates. Stay safe out there. Love y'all. Peace.